The Giants just became the most misunderstood team in the NFL, and the split reaction to their draft proves it. On one side, several NFL executives reportedly slammed the Giants' draft haul, saying this team has no plan and no identity. On the other side, PFF gave the Giants an A grade, pointing to Arvell Reese and Francis Mauigoa as major pieces of a roster that is clearly getting more physical. That is not just a disagreement. That is a football identity war. Because this is not really about draft grades. This is about John Harbaugh, Schoen, Jaxson Dart, the Dexter Lawrence trade, and whether Big Blue is finally building something real. The media sees chaos. PFF sees value. Giants fans see hope. And when you connect the dots, this entire debate changes everything. Let's be honest about where things stand. The holes are clear, and nobody should pretend otherwise. The Giants have been losing credibility for years. They have had too many resets, too many half plans, too many moments where the roster looked like it was being built from 3 different philosophies at once. That is why the no-plan criticism hurts. It does not land in a vacuum. It lands on a fan base that has heard promises before. It lands on a franchise that has spent too long trying to convince people it was close, while the results said something different. The offensive line has needed real answers. The defensive interior changed dramatically after the Dexter Lawrence trade. The young quarterback situation demanded stability because Jaxson Dart is the current Giants starting quarterback, and he cannot be asked to carry chaos every Sunday. The Giants also had a perception problem. Around the league, they were not treated like a serious team. They were treated like a team still trying to find itself. That overlay is the heart of it. This franchise needed trust. It needed identity. It needed trench credibility. And after the draft, the criticism got louder. Several NFL executives reportedly said the Giants have no plan and no identity. That is brutal. That is not a small complaint. That is not someone saying they reached on one pick. That is someone questioning the entire blueprint. And this is where it gets real. If that criticism is right, then Harbaugh and Schoen are building noise, not foundation. If it is wrong, then the rest of the league may be missing the most important part of this rebuild. And that brings us to what just happened. The headline is simple. NFL executives are reportedly criticizing the Giants' draft haul, while PFF is saying the opposite. That is the whole tension. Several NFL executives reportedly slammed the Giants' draft haul, saying the team has no plan and no identity. That phrase has real weight. No plan means they do not believe the picks connect. No identity means they do not believe the roster has a clear football personality. And I am not going to dismiss that just because it sounds harsh. For a franchise like the New York Football Giants, that criticism matters. This team has to earn back respect. You do not get credibility because you hire John Harbaugh. You get credibility when the roster starts looking like the coach's vision. But here's where I push back. PFF gave the Giants draft class an A grade. That grade matters because it tells casual fans the Giants did not just get praised by people wearing blue. An outside evaluation saw real value in this class. And PFF specifically highlighted Arvell Reese and Francis Mauigoa as major pieces, with the Giants landing 2 top 10 players on the PFF big board. Here is the emotional translation. If a team lands 2 players viewed that highly by a major evaluator, that is not random wandering. That is premium talent meeting a real need. Arvell Reese is the kind of pick that screams Harbaugh football. Explosive, physical, defensive tone setter. A player you draft when you are tired of being pushed around. Francis Mauigoa is just as important, maybe even more important for Jaxson Dart. Powerful offensive line help is not a luxury when your starting quarterback is young. It is survival. So when executives say there is no plan, I have to ask one question. Are they watching the same blueprint? Because from where I am sitting, this looks pretty clear. Harbaugh wants violence up front. Schoen gave him trench pieces. The draft added young physicality. The roster moves added veteran size. The goal is not subtle. This is not cosmetic. This is a shift in philosophy. Now, is it guaranteed to work? No, absolutely not. The Giants still have to prove it. Draft grades do not win division games. But no plan feels lazy to me. You can question the execution. You can question the timing. You can question the Dexter Lawrence trade. But saying there is no plan ignores the pattern. And when you see what the front office did next, the whole picture changes. The draft debate only makes sense when you connect it to the rest of the roster. Because this was never just about Arvell Reese and Francis Mauigoa. This is where it connects to the bigger picture. The Giants are building a team that wants to win in the trenches, and the post-draft moves support that. They signed Shelby Harris. They added Lecky Fodu. DJ Reader remains connected to the Giants. Calais Campbell was on the radar before he returned to Baltimore. That is a pattern. That overlay matters because it shows the draft was not isolated. The Giants did not draft physical players and then build a finesse roster around them. They kept adding defensive tackle help. They kept chasing veteran size. They kept trying to reshape the middle of the defense. Shelby Harris gives them veteran experience. Lecky Foda gives them another body inside. Reader remains the swing piece, if the Giants can finish that pursuit. And yes, the Dexter Lawrence trade still matters. It is the scar in the middle of the conversation. When you trade a player like Lawrence, people are going to question your identity. They should. That is fair. But here is my read. Harbaugh may not be trying to replace one star with one star. He may be replacing superstar dependency with rotation. Waves, depth, veteran toughness. More bodies who can survive ugly games. That is not glamorous. That is not clean. But it is a plan. The real question is whether fans can separate ugly from aimless. Because Harbaugh's football is not supposed to look like a fantasy football roster. It is supposed to look like a fist fight. It is supposed to give you defensive violence, offensive structure, and fewer easy Sundays for opponents. So when executives say there is no identity, I disagree. The identity is obvious. The identity is physicality. The identity is trench control. The identity is making the roster harder, even if the path looks uncomfortable. And when you combine that with what PFF saw in the draft class, everything clicks. The proof is in the two players PFF highlighted, Arvell Reese and Francis Mauigoa. One side of the league says the Giants do not have a plan. PFF says the Giants added premium talent that fits a much tougher roster. That is why this debate is bigger than grades. Arvell Reese gives Harbaugh a defensive tone setter. He represents the kind of player who can change the temperature of a unit, not just with production, but with attitude. Francis Mauigoa gives Jaxson Dart something every young starting quarterback needs: protection with purpose. That overlay is the emotional translation. Reese helps define the defense. Mauigoa helps stabilize the quarterback plan. Together, they tell you the Giants are trying to build a football team from the inside out. And that matters because Dart cannot develop in chaos. If the offensive line is unstable, Dart gets rushed. If the defense cannot get stops, Dart gets dragged into shootouts. If the roster lacks physicality, Harbaugh's entire identity falls apart before it starts. So yes, the Giants' draft class split the league. But maybe that is the point. A real identity does not please everybody. A real identity forces people to take sides. Some executives see confusion. PFF sees value. I see a team finally choosing a lane. Not a perfect lane. Not a guaranteed lane. But a lane. And for the Giants, after years of drifting, that matters. Hot take. The NFL executives are wrong. The Giants do have a plan. And I am not backing down from that. It is not a pretty plan. It is not a clean plan. It is a physical, uncomfortable Harbaugh plan. My prediction is this. Arvell Reese will become the face of the Giants' new defensive identity this season, and Francis Mauigoa will become the most important pick for Jaxson Dart's development. That matters because if those two hit, the entire argument flips. Suddenly the Giants did not draft randomly. They drafted a defensive tone setter and a quarterback protector. That is a real foundation. If I am wrong, I will come back to this video and own it. But I do not think I am wrong. And here is the part that will make people mad. The Dexter Lawrence trade can still hurt, and the Giants can still be building the right identity. Both things can be true. Fans want everything to be clean. Football is not clean. Rebuilds are messy. Harbaugh is choosing violence, trenches, and structure. That is a plan. The league just does not like the way it looks yet. Big Blue is back at the table. And this time, the debate is about whether the league understands the plan. NFL executives reportedly say the Giants have no identity. PFF gave the class an A. Arvell Reese and Francis Mauigoa say otherwise. Shelby Harris, Lecky Foda, and the DJ Reader connection say the same thing. This is not a soft rebuild. This is Harbaugh trying to make the Giants tougher from the inside out. Giants fans, honest answer. Are the NFL executives right that Big Blue has no plan? Or is PFF right that this draft class deserves real respect? Pick a side in the comments. If you are riding with Big Blue through the Harbaugh rebuild, you know where that subscribe button is. We break down every move, every rumor, and every shift in philosophy right here. Go Big Blue.